The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with chatter as representatives from 100 advanced civilizations mingled. Tall, crystalline beings floated alongside squid-like creatures in hover tanks. Energy entities pulsed in containment fields next to reptilian diplomats in ornate robes. They all shared one thing: a sense of smug superiority when the topic of humans came up. Earth had become the butt of cosmic jokes, hidden in corner conversations and diplomatic asides. The more established species mocked humanity's primitive understanding of the universe. Captain John Miller stood rigid in his blue uniform at the edge of the gathering, trying to maintain his dignity. The constant dismissal of human achievements had worn him down over the 3-day summit. His mission, to secure aid for Earth's growing environmental crisis, seemed doomed to fail. "Ah, the Earth representative," said Ambassador Excel, a being made of what appeared to be living metal. "Tell me again how your ships managed to travel using only chemical propulsion." "It's so quaint." Excel's companions, a group of delegates from systems that had mastered interstellar travel thousands of years ago, didn't bother hiding their amusement. "We've developed fusion engines now," Miller replied evenly, though his jaw tightened. "Our newest ships can reach Mars in just 12 days. This brought outright laughter from the group. A tall, willowy alien with 6 eyes leaned down. "We fold space to cross similar distances in seconds, human. My species mastered fifth-dimensional travel when your ancestors were still figuring out how to make fire." Miller took a deep breath. He had faced this reaction at every turn. The Galactic Council saw Earth as a curiosity, a planet of barely evolved primates who had somehow stumbled onto basic technology. Not worth real diplomatic effort, just occasional amusement. "Earth needs help," Miller tried again, addressing the more sympathetic-looking members of the group. "Our climate systems are failing. Millions will die if—" "Perhaps you should have considered that before burning fossil fuels for 3 centuries," interrupted a being of pure energy. "Most species learn to manage their planets before reaching for the stars." Miller's communicator buzzed. He excused himself, grateful for the interruption, and stepped away to take the message. The small screen showed the face of General Adams, head of Earth's Defense Force. Her expression was grim but determined. "Project Breakthrough is ready," she said without preamble. "The President has authorized deployment." Miller's eyes widened. "Already? I thought we were months away from testing." "Circumstances have changed. We intercepted communications between council members. They're not just dismissing us, John. They're planning to quarantine Earth, to contain us until we either solve our problems or die trying." Miller looked back at the gathering of alien dignitaries. Their laughter and dismissive glances now seemed more sinister. "When?" he asked. "The Prometheus launches in 12 hours. Your job is to ensure every important council member is watching when it happens." Miller nodded slowly. For 2 decades, Earth's best scientists had worked in secret, studying the dimensional physics that other species took for granted. While publicly struggling with basic space travel, privately, humans had made a breakthrough that none of the arrogant council members could imagine. "I'll make sure they're all watching," Miller said. As he returned to the gathering, a new confidence straightened his shoulders. Let them laugh for now. The mighty civilizations that mocked humanity's primitive ships and desperate pleas would soon witness something that would silence their laughter forever. In 12 hours, the Prometheus would show the galaxy what humans could really do when pushed to the edge, and nothing would ever be the same again. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility unknown to most of humanity, Dr. Alex Wright paced nervously around the gleaming hull of the Prometheus. The ship looked deceptively simple from the outside, a sleek, black vessel roughly the size of a small submarine. But its ordinary appearance masked the most revolutionary technology humans had ever developed. "Final checks complete," said Tom Reed, chief engineer, his voice echoing in the vast underground hangar. "All systems are green." Alex nodded but couldn't stop pacing. 10 years of his life had gone into this project. 10 years of mathematical breakthroughs, failed experiments, and countless sleepless nights. The theory had been sound from the beginning. Humans might lack the evolutionary advantages of other species, but they possessed something unique, imagination that transcended dimensional boundaries. "The crew is ready," said Dr. Lisa Morgan, approaching with a tablet in hand. Brain scans show optimal patterns for dimensional perception. The crew of the Prometheus consisted of 4 people: Commander Ben Porter, a test pilot with unusually high spatial awareness; Dr. Kate Adams, a physicist who had helped develop the dimensional drive; Engineer Mike Chen, whose intuitive understanding of the ship's systems bordered on supernatural; and Navigator Emma Wilson, who could visualize complex mathematical models in her mind without computer assistance. All 4 now stood by the entrance hatch, dressed in simple black jumpsuits. They looked ordinary, just humans, nothing like the exotic, evolved beings of the Galactic Council. Yet they were about to attempt something no species had ever achieved. "Are we really doing this?" Alex whispered to Lisa. "We've only run simulations. The dimensional jump could tear the ship apart. Or worse." Lisa's eyes remained on her tablet, monitoring the crew's neural patterns. "If we don't try, Earth dies slowly." The Council's made that clear. General Harris entered the hangar, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. All activity paused as he approached the ship. "Captain Miller reports the Council members are gathered," he announced. "We have a small window of opportunity before they conclude their summit and disperse. It's now or never." Alex swallowed hard and nodded. The general turned to the crew. "You understand what's at stake. This isn't just about saving Earth from environmental collapse. It's about humanity's place in the galaxy. For too long, they've treated us like children playing with toys. Today, we show them who we really are." Commander Porter stepped forward. "We're ready, sir." The boarding process was quick and efficient. Within minutes, the crew was sealed inside the Prometheus, and the hangar began to clear. Alex and the other scientists retreated to the observation room, where screens displayed both the ship's internal systems and an external feed from the Galactic Council summit. "Prometheus, you are cleared for launch," General Harris's voice came through the speakers. Inside the ship, the crew strapped into their positions. Unlike conventional spacecraft, the Prometheus had no traditional controls. Instead, neural interfaces connected directly to each crew member's mind. "Beginning mental synchronization," Commander Porter announced. The 4 crew members closed their eyes. Their breathing slowed and synchronized as the ship's systems linked with their consciousness. Regular humans could perceive 3 dimensions naturally. With training and technology, these 4 could conceptualize up to 7. In the observation room, Alex watched the brain activity monitors spike. "They're reaching perception threshold," he whispered. The Prometheus began to hum. At first, nothing seemed to happen, but then the air around the ship began to shimmer. The vessel itself appeared to blur, as if it existed in multiple places simultaneously. "Dimensional folding initiating," came Kate's calm voice over the comms. The scientists watched in awe as the Prometheus seemed to stretch and distort, its outline becoming fuzzy as it began to access higher dimensions. Then, with a flash of light that wasn't quite light, more like the suggestion of illumination from somewhere beyond normal space, the ship vanished. General Harris smiled grimly at the empty launch pad. "Signal Captain Miller. Tell him the package is on its way." Captain Miller struggled to keep his expression neutral as he watched the main viewing screen in the Galactic Council chamber. The gathered aliens had agreed to his request for a demonstration of Earth's latest technological achievement, with barely concealed amusement. Most were simply curious to see what primitive oddity humans had cobbled together this time. "Your species is persistent, I'll grant you that," said Ambassador Excel, the metallic being settling into a position near Miller. "Though I fail to see how this demonstration will change the Council's position on Earth's request for assistance." The vast chamber had been configured to display a section of space near Jupiter, where Miller had indicated the demonstration would take place. Hundreds of alien dignitaries watched with expressions ranging from boredom to mild curiosity. "I believe this will change everything about how you see us," Miller replied quietly. A blue-skinned diplomat with 4 arms chuckled. "Your optimism is charming, human. But we've studied your species thoroughly. You've barely mastered your own solar system. What could you possibly show us that?" The diplomat fell silent as the screen flickered. A distortion appeared in the empty space, not like a ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel, which most species had mastered millennia ago, but something altogether different. The space seemed to fold inward, as if reality itself was being pinched and reshaped. The Prometheus emerged, but not in any conventional way. It didn't simply appear, it unfolded into existence, seeming to materialize from multiple places simultaneously before settling into a single form. The chamber went silent. Inside the Prometheus, the crew remained in deep concentration, their minds linked through the neural interface. Commander Porter opened his eyes first, taking in the readings that confirmed their position. "Dimensional jump successful," he announced. "All systems stable." Kate checked her own readings. "The dimensional field is holding. We're maintaining partial existence across dimensions 3 through 7. Mike smiled faintly. "The ship feels alive, like it's breathing." "That's the dimensional pulse," Emma explained, her eyes still closed as she navigated through mathematical landscapes only she could see. "We're not just sitting in space, we're flowing through multiple dimensions simultaneously." Back in the council chamber, the aliens were no longer laughing. Many had risen from their seats, their attention fixed on the display. "What is this?" demanded a reptilian counselor. "This technology is impossible for humans." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Perhaps you underestimated us." On the screen, the Prometheus began to move. But it didn't travel through space conventionally. Instead, it seemed to blink in and out of existence, appearing at different points instantly. The ship's movements made no sense in 3-dimensional space. It turned at impossible angles and seemed to exist in multiple locations at once. Advanced sensor systems throughout the council chamber went wild, recording data that defied conventional physics. The Prometheus wasn't just moving through space, it was navigating through higher dimensions, taking shortcuts through reality itself. "Impossible," whispered a being composed of pure light. "They're traversing the 7th dimension. Even we have only mastered the 5th. Ambassador Excel turned to Miller, his metallic features unable to hide his shock. "How? Your species has no evolutionary adaptations for higher dimensional perception." Miller watched the screen with pride as the Prometheus performed maneuvers that no other species had ever achieved. "We don't need biological adaptations, Ambassador. We have imagination. While you evolved to perceive certain dimensions naturally, we learned to conceptualize them mathematically and then built technology to bridge the gap." The Prometheus suddenly appeared directly above the council chamber, visible through the transparent ceiling. It hung there, partially transparent, and shifting slightly, as if it wasn't fully committed to existing in only one place. "This is just the beginning," Miller said quietly. "Now shall we discuss Earth's place in the galaxy again?" The Galactic Council erupted into chaos. Representatives from dozens of advanced civilizations shouted over each other, demanding explanations. The 7-limbed chairman banged his ceremonial staff against the floor, struggling to restore order. "Silence," he finally roared, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. The room gradually quieted, though tense whispers continued to circulate among the delegates. All eyes shifted between the Prometheus hovering outside and Captain Miller, who stood calmly in the center of the chamber. "Human," the chairman addressed Miller directly, "your demonstration is unexpected. But a single technological achievement, however impressive, does not automatically grant your species equal standing in this council." Ambassador Excel stepped forward, his metallic body reflecting the chamber's lights. "This could be a trick. A holographic projection, perhaps. We require proof that this vessel actually manipulates dimensional space as it appears to." Miller nodded. A reasonable request. What would you consider adequate proof? The question sparked immediate debate among the senior council members. After a brief consultation, a tall crystalline being named High Scholar Trell approached. The HFY testing grounds. Trell announced. It is a secure facility on the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy where new technologies are evaluated. The course contains obstacles that can only be navigated by genuine dimensional manipulation. No tricks or simulations would succeed. Miller tapped his communicator. Commander Porter, did you receive that? We did, came Porter's voice over the speakers. The HFY testing grounds. We're accessing galactic navigational data now. Inside the Prometheus, Emma Wilson's eyes fluttered behind closed lids as her mind processed astronomical data at incredible speed. The neural interface translated her thoughts directly into navigational commands. Got it, she said. Coordinates locked. It's far. At the edge of Andromeda. Mike checked the ship's systems. Power levels are optimal. The dimensional drive can handle it. Let's show them what we can do, Porter decided. Captain Miller, please inform the council we accept their challenge. We'll meet them at the testing grounds. In the council chamber, Miller relayed this acceptance. The chairman looked skeptical. The testing grounds are 2.5 million light-years from here. Even with our fastest ships, it would take at least 3 days to reach them. Miller smiled slightly. We'll see you there in 1 hour. Before anyone could respond, the Prometheus shimmered and vanished, leaving only empty space where it had been hovering. The chamber erupted again, with delegates rushing to their ships. The journey to Andromeda took most council vessels between 3 and 4 days, even using their advanced propulsion systems. The fastest ship, belonging to the Zeth Collective, made the journey in just under 60 hours, a record time that had stood for centuries. The Prometheus arrived in 43 minutes. When the council ships began arriving 3 days later, they found the human vessel waiting calmly at the entrance to the testing grounds. A small crowd of local scientists and officials had gathered, drawn by the unprecedented arrival of an unknown ship claiming to represent Earth. The testing grounds consisted of a massive array of obstacles spread across an asteroid field. Some were physical barriers, others were gravitational anomalies, dimensional folds, or temporal distortions. The course had been designed to test the limits of dimensional technology, with each section requiring increasingly sophisticated manipulation of higher dimensions. As the council ships took their observation positions, Commander Porter prepared his crew. They're expecting us to fail, he said. They still believe this is some kind of trick or fluke. Kate reviewed the course data. The final obstacle requires 7th-dimensional navigation. No species has ever completed it. Then we'll be the first, Porter said with determination. Not just for Earth, but to show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of. As the starting signal flashed across space, the Prometheus surged forward into the testing grounds, about to rewrite galactic history forever. The testing grounds loomed before the Prometheus, a sprawling maze of natural and artificial hazards designed to challenge the most advanced ships in the galaxy. Observation platforms filled with council representatives hovered at safe distances, recording devices trained on the human vessel. First obstacle approaching, Emma announced, her consciousness partially merged with the ship's navigational systems. Gravitational maze. The initial challenge consisted of dozens of micro-black holes arranged in a complex pattern. Their overlapping gravitational fields created a nearly impassable web that had claimed many test vessels over the centuries. Conventional ships would need to plot an extremely precise course through the gravity wells, Kate explained, monitoring the dimensional field. But we don't need to play by those rules. Porter nodded, taking us to 4th-dimensional phase. The Prometheus shimmered as the crew's collective consciousness shifted their perception. To the observers, the ship appeared to become slightly transparent, its edges blurring. Then it moved directly toward the black hole field. They're going to be crushed, exclaimed Ambassador Excel, watching from the main observation platform. But instead of being pulled apart by gravitational forces, the Prometheus simply passed through the field as if it weren't there. By partially shifting into the fourth dimension, the ship moved slightly above normal spacetime, rendering the black hole's gravity mostly ineffective. Elementary, Mike commented as they emerged from the other side. Any species with basic dimensional tech could do that. Next obstacle, Emma called out. Temporal distortion field. This challenge was more formidable. A section of space where time flowed differently in various pockets. Ships entering without proper navigation would become hopelessly lost, parts of them experiencing time at different rates. Fifth dimensional perception engaging, Porter announced. The crew's minds stretched further, their awareness expanding to perceive not just space, but time as a dimension they could navigate. The Prometheus's outline became even more indistinct as it partially existed across different timeframes simultaneously. From the observation platforms, the Council representatives watched in growing disbelief as the human ship navigated the temporal maze with apparent ease, emerging in less than 2 minutes. The previous record had been 27 minutes, set by a Zeth ship 3 centuries ago. "They're actually doing it," murmured the chairman, his 7 limbs twitching nervously. The third obstacle was a physical one. A dense asteroid field where the rocks moved in patterns that defied normal physics, some of them appearing and disappearing randomly. "These asteroids are quantum-locked," Kate observed. "They exist in multiple potential states simultaneously." "Sixth-dimensional navigation," Porter ordered. As the crew pushed their perception even further, something remarkable happened inside the Prometheus. The neural interface began showing not just the current state of the asteroids, but all their possible states at once. Emma could see every potential path and position, allowing her to chart a course through possibilities rather than physical space. The Prometheus darted through the asteroid field at impossible speeds, never touching a single rock. To the observers, it appeared to predict the random movements perfectly, sometimes passing through gaps that didn't exist until the moment the ship reached them. "Final obstacle ahead," Emma announced, her voice strained from the mental effort. "The phase labyrinth." The last challenge was considered theoretically impossible to navigate. Created by an ancient civilization long extinct, it consisted of a region where reality itself fractured into multiple branching paths. Every ship that had attempted it had become lost, emerging back at the entrance after seeming to make progress. "This requires full seventh-dimensional perception," Kate said quietly. "No one has ever achieved this." Porter looked at his crew. "We've come too far to fail now. Take us all the way." The 4 humans pushed their minds to the absolute limit. Pain lanced through their consciousness as they struggled to comprehend a level of reality never before perceived by their species. The Prometheus began to change. It no longer appeared as a single ship, but seemed to exist as multiple overlapping vessels, each one taking a different path through the labyrinth simultaneously. From the observation platforms, the Council watched in awe as the impossible happened. The human ship navigated the phase labyrinth, becoming the first vessel in galactic history to complete the full testing grounds course. "They did it," the chairman whispered. "They actually did it." A stunned silence fell over the observation platforms as the Prometheus emerged from the phase labyrinth. The impossible had been achieved. For centuries, the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had attempted to navigate the final challenge, and all had failed. Yet this ship, built by humans, a species most council members had dismissed as cosmic toddlers, had succeeded where all others had fallen short. Inside the Prometheus, the strain of seventh-dimensional navigation had pushed the crew to their limits. Blood trickled from Mike's nose as he slumped in his chair, the neural connection taking a physical toll. Emma's hands trembled as she slowly closed the dimensional pathways. Kate's eyes were bloodshot, and Commander Porter's face was pale and drawn. "We did it," Porter said, his voice barely above a whisper. "All systems secure." Returning to standard dimensional state, the ship gradually solidified, the multiple overlapping versions collapsing back into a single vessel existing primarily in normal space. As the neural interface powered down, the crew felt the pressure on their minds ease. "Status report," Porter called, straightening in his chair. Mike wiped the blood from his nose. "Engine systems holding. Dimensional drive needs time to cool, but otherwise functional." "Navigation confirmed," Emma added. "We've completed the full course, first in recorded history." On the main observation platform, the council members had recovered from their initial shock and were now engaged in heated discussion. Captain Miller, who had arrived days earlier on one of the faster council vessels, stood aside, watching with quiet satisfaction. The chairman approached him, moving with the deliberate grace of his seven-limbed species. "Your vessel has accomplished something many believed impossible. I find myself reconsidering certain assumptions about humanity." Miller nodded respectfully. "Perhaps now the Council will consider our request for assistance with Earth's climate crisis more seriously." Ambassador Excel joined them, his metallic features unreadable. "The demonstration is impressive, but raises uncomfortable questions. How did your species develop this technology in secret? What other capabilities have you hidden from the galactic community?" Miller smiled thinly. "We hid nothing. You simply never asked. Your representatives came to Earth, saw our public space program, and assumed that was the extent of our capabilities. You never considered that we might be pursuing different technological paths than your civilizations followed." The Prometheus docked with the main observation platform, and its crew emerged slowly, still recovering from the mental strain. They were met with a mixture of awe, curiosity, and thinly veiled concern from the assembled aliens. Commander Porter approached the gathering of council members and offered a formal bow. "The Prometheus and her crew are at your disposal for questions," he announced, his voice stronger now. "We came not to threaten, but to demonstrate that humanity is ready for true partnership in the galactic community." A tall, insectoid being stepped forward. "Your technology operates on principles different from any we have encountered. Our dimensional drives require extensive biological modifications to operate. How do unmodified humans perceive the seventh dimension?" Kate answered, her scientific mind already recovering from the ordeal. "We don't. Not naturally. Our neural interface translates mathematical models into perceptual experiences. Humans have always excelled at abstract thinking. We can conceptualize what we cannot directly perceive." This simple explanation caused another stir among the council members. The idea that abstract mathematics and technology could substitute for evolutionary adaptations challenged fundamental assumptions about species development. The chairman raised his staff for silence. "This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about dimensional technology. It opens possibilities we never considered." He turned to Miller. "Captain, please inform your government that the Council's position has changed. Earth will receive the assistance it requires." Miller inclined his head. "Thank you, Chairman, but Earth needs more than environmental aid. We need recognition as full equals in this community." The chairman looked at the Prometheus, then back to Miller. "After today, I don't think anyone here would question your equality. In fact, many now worry you may have surpassed us all." 1 year after the Prometheus completed the impossible challenge at the testing grounds, Earth had changed beyond recognition. Green technology provided by the Council had reversed the worst of the climate damage. Floating cities gleamed in once polluted areas, purifying the air and water. Hunger and energy shortages became distant memories. But the most profound changes were not physical. They were in how humanity saw itself and how the galaxy viewed humans. Captain Miller stood at the window of the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva, watching alien ships coming and going freely in Earth's skies. Some brought diplomats, other scientists eager to study humanity's unique approach to dimensional physics. What had once been mockery had transformed into respect, curiosity, and sometimes even fear. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a familiar voice. Miller turned to see Commander Porter approaching. The Prometheus crew had become celebrities across the galaxy, but they carried their fame with humility. All four showed subtle signs of their experience, a slight tremor in Emma's hands, silver streaks in Kate's once dark hair, lines around Mike's eyes that hadn't been there before. Pushing human minds to perceive the seventh dimension had left permanent marks. "Hard to believe where we were just a year ago," Miller replied. "A laughing stock of the galaxy, begging for scraps." Porter nodded. "And now they're lining up to learn from us. The Zeth have already modified their ships based on our design principles. They're calling it a revolutionary breakthrough." Behind them, the embassy's main doors opened, admitting the chairman and several high-ranking council members. They moved with purpose toward the conference room, where the day's main event would take place. "It's time," Miller said. "Ready to make history again." The conference room was packed with representatives from over 200 worlds. At the center table sat human officials alongside the council leadership. Today would mark humanity's formal admission as full members of the Galactic Council, the fastest ascension in the organization's history. Dr. Alex Wright, the theoretical genius behind the dimensional drive, presented the final report on human-alien technological cooperation. His simple black suit stood in stark contrast to the elaborate garments and exoskeletons of the alien dignitaries. "The Prometheus was just the beginning," he explained, standing before the assembled representatives. "Our joint research teams have already developed second-generation drives that reduce mental strain by 60%. The applications extend far beyond transportation. Dimensional engineering could revolutionize medicine, communication, energy production." Ambassador Excel, once dismissive of humanity, now leaned forward with keen interest. Like many council members, his attitude had transformed from condescension to genuine respect. When the chairman rose to speak, the room fell silent. "Today marks a turning point in galactic history," he announced. "Humanity has shown us that evolutionary paths are not destiny. Their achievement forces us all to reconsider our most fundamental assumptions about intelligence and progress." He turned toward the human delegation. "You were right to challenge us. For too long, the Council has judged species by how similar their development was to our own. We failed to recognize that different paths might lead to equal, or even superior, outcomes." As the chairman officially welcomed Earth to the Council, a transmission appeared on the main display. The Prometheus II, larger and more advanced than its predecessor, was launching from its lunar construction facility. Unlike the first ship, this vessel carried a mixed crew. Humans working alongside members of 6 other species, all trained in Earth's unique approach to dimensional perception. As the ship rose into space, it performed a maneuver that was becoming humanity's signature, shifting partially into higher dimensions before accelerating away, leaving a beautiful ripple effect in reality itself. Captain Miller washed with pride. The laughter had stopped. The mockery had ended, and humanity had found its rightful place among the stars, not through conquest or intimidation, but by showing the galaxy a new way to see the universe. The cosmic joke had a new punchline. Those who had been laughed at now led the way forward, teaching their former mockers how to transcend the limitations they never knew they had.